Welcome to the Dental Marketing Heroes podcast, your ultimate resource for mastering the art and science of dental marketing. In each episode, we explore the latest strategies, insights, and success stories to help elevate your dental practice to new heights. And now, here is your host, the President and Chief Marketing Strategist at Outsourced Marketing and Dental Marketing Heroes, Ian Cantle.
Hey everyone, it's Ian Cantle here from Dental Marketing Heroes, and welcome to this episode of our Dental Marketing Heroes podcast. This is actually our first interview with an expert in an area that supports dentists, and I wanted to introduce you to Stefan from Schooley Mitchell. He is an awesome gentleman. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a couple years now, and the work he does is fantastic. Stefan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and the background that's led you to where you are today?
Amazing, Ian, and thank you very much for the time this morning. And I'm very excited to talk to you and your viewers and listeners. Yeah, so my name's Stephan Lafreniere, and I've spent a career mostly in retail in the disciplines of procurement, category management, and strategy. And procurement and category management can mean a lot of things to people, but really what it is, it's taking a focused approach on a specific task of really ensuring systemic processes are in place to drive efficiency and ongoing cost analysis in a business. And so retailers have to do that because it's obviously a very competitive industry, especially in Canada with the Americans or European companies that tend to want to come here, and the strong need to continue to be really focused on driving cost out. And so it was a great learning or training ground for those kind of disciplines. And with Schooley Mitchell, that's, what we do is exactly that. We take a strategic approach to helping ensure our clients have a long-term process in place to ensure efficiency and costs are well managed. And so we specialize to help our clients optimize their expenses. And really our approach involves analyzing our clients' contracts and spending patterns to identify areas where costs could be reduced or efficiencies improved. And then we negotiate with the service providers on behalf of our clients. We always include the incumbent providers. We're not an agent or a broker. We are advisors or consultants that really will create an a la carte analysis for our clients so that they can secure better rates and terms, and obviously aiming to save them both money, but also their time. We've been doing this for about 20 years, about 22 years to be exact. We've worked with 29,000 clients across Canada and the United States, and we've created about $640 million in savings for those clients. And on average, we save them about 28% on their indirect expenses. And let's focus on that. Indirect expenses, what does that mean? It's things like telecom and unified communication. So anything that has data, whether it's voice data, video data, any kind of transmissions of data, we can support. Software as a service, which can range from things like Microsoft 365 licenses, some CRM software licenses. Big one for, I think, your primary clients, Ian, would be electronic payment processing. There's obviously a lot of insurance coverage that would happen inside of dentists, but there's also a lot of pay-as-you-go type things or non-insured payments. And I don't see a lot of people at the dentist bringing wads of cash in to pay. They're usually using a card of some kind, right? And so that's an area that we've had a lot of success helping those medical clinics, dentists, veterinarians, doctors' offices with. Courier. So if they've got inbound, outbound things that are being shipped, whether again, that could be products, supplies, all kinds of things. And then waste removal is another one where it can range from helping them reduce expenses on simple garbage and recycling to bio waste if they've got documents that needed to be shredded, or in some cases, document storage if they have long-term patient records that are stored offsite. And then the last one that probably is relevant to your clients would be uniform rentals and facility supplies. So if you've got dentists who are supplying the scrubs that their staff are wearing on a rental basis with cleaning contracts, then that's an area that, again, we can help support.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Even with my experience with dental offices, I've even found we've been involved in some transitions where dentists are moving. Maybe they've accumulated, if they're a long-term business, they've accumulated phone numbers with Bell or another provider over the years, a traditional landline. and the costs of those can be quite extraordinary. And so they've, transitioned them to another provider or maybe even transitioned to VoIP. So I think even just areas like that, I can see huge cost savings for the businesses. And as you said, with couriers, they're couriering material all over the place, whether it's a new bridge for a client, products. Yeah. So lots of opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, and technology changed, right? And obviously dentists will recognize that the things that they do to support our dental health has changed dramatically. That's also true going to your example of phones, right? Old wireline service was the staple for decades. VoIP is not all created equal. VoIP can be as simple as getting your voice signal over an internet line, but then can be as enhanced as a system that integrates your phone lines, your appointment booking with your client management software, and really allow true efficiency gains with less clicks or less interactions, but and providing better service. And technology changes, and sometimes these areas that we look after have kind of a set it and forget it type mentality. And so it works, so it's not broken. Therefore, why should we look at it? The bills look like they're the same every month, so why should we look at it? And those are prime things that can cause expenses to not be optimized. And optimized isn't just about the dollars; it's about the service, right? And ensuring that the service that's being received is the best it can be with the most kind of benefits associated to what the client needs. And the money it costs is only one of the areas that is something that should be looked at.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on a personal level, as a business owner, but also as a consumer, having a third party watchdog like yourself who can come in and basically mobile phones is a prime example where
Mhm.
there nobody no service provider ever provides exactly the same packages as the other because they want to create some confusion. They want to make it look like theirs is the best package, but having a partner like yourself who can come in and actually diagnose what are we really receiving and how does it compare, and it sounds like you negotiate as well for the best price and the best service possible.
100%. When the analysis is done, we start with benchmarking, which is really to understand what services does our client have today,
Mm.
and how much are they paying for it. And then from there, we start the work to really try and determine what optimized looks like. And negotiating with the current provider is always part of the mix. And people ask, why can't I do this myself? And the first question I ask, if you haven't done it yet, what makes you think you're going to do it in the future? But beyond that, you're probably, if we stick with the example of phones, you're going to call the people, and maybe that means you'll spend a few hours on the phone with Rogers or Bell and try and negotiate savings. Maybe you'll decide to call TELUS. Two things happen when you work with a provider like Schooley Mitchell. And I should correct myself. We're not a provider. We're a knowledge provider. We're not a cell phone provider, right? Ultimately, our clients will still work with a provider of cellular phones like the three that I just mentioned. The
Stefan,
first,
can I just
yeah,
I think what you said there is really important to draw out because you guys don't have stake in the game of who you recommend. It really is for the benefit of the business itself, the dentist.
100%. Yeah. Our fiduciary responsibility is solely with our clients, right? We work for our clients and we're striving to provide them knowledge to make better decisions. In the end, they can take that knowledge and apply it as they see fit. And I can explain that a little bit more in a few minutes. But that knowledge is really what our product is. And ultimately, going back to that example, they could call Rogers or Bell, but they're calling someone that they know and they're calling as the business. And while Schooley Mitchell isn't a household name, and we don't really strive to be, the providers know us because we represent almost 30,000 clients. And so when Schooley Mitchell calls on behalf of a client to a provider, it signals to the provider this client is really focused on ensuring their services are optimized because they're employing a specialist in the field. So that's the first thing that happens. The second thing is we can often provide options that our clients may not have thought of. right? We all have these cellular phones that usually are tied with the Rogers, Bell, Telus, et cetera. When it comes to your communications needs, there can be other options and providers, going back to VoIP and unified communications. It's not just about the provider, it's about the interconnectivity of how your business ecosystem communicates. And so if it's important that the dentist is able to be reached, whether they're in the clinic or at the cottage or at a conference, there are ways that we can help ensure that happens beyond simply they've got a phone number tied to their Rogers or Bell or Telus phone line. And again, those kind of things aren't necessarily as commonly known. And so we can rise options that can help drive cost efficiency, but also work efficiency as well.
Awesome. And I think you've explained it really well, but is there something special about your product or service that's pretty unique?
I would say, yeah, our focus is really around something that has plagued kind of individuals and businesses alike, and that's the visibility of market pricing, right? In some cases, if you're looking to buy a computer and you know that you want a Lenovo and what the model number is that meets your needs, it's very easy to find price transparency on something like Google and just who's got the best price for that Lenovo model. When it comes to things like the services that we were talking about, waste removal and payment processing, what good looks like in terms of pricing is pretty obscure, right? It's not really something that you can search. It doesn't have a model number attached so that you're comparing apples to apples. And so our primary focus is really to create improved visibility in the marketplace for the needed business services, those areas that we support. And we do that successfully because we have, most importantly, dedicated people. We have analysts they're focused on a category, right? So we have a team that's focused on payment processing to support our clients. The telecom people are a different team, right? Again, going back to what a business owner can do. In the case of dentists, their focus is on dental care. They can make decisions on what phone should I use, what payment processor should I use, but that's not where their expertise is. And the folks that we employ are experts in those fields, and we have proprietary tools and processes, and most importantly, data. We've got 22 years of data we have 30,000 clients, but we've worked with more clients than that early in the process, and they may not have decided to move forward with this. So we have tremendous amounts of data. And ultimately, what we seek to provide our clients in terms of value is we really look to provide four things. We want to provide them knowledge, which helps them to make better decisions. We supply our time in order to take the knowledge that we have and really put forward something that our clients can chew on to make better decisions from. The security that once we've shared what we've learned and we've got the recommendation, that it is really a broader view of what's available in the marketplace rather than maybe a singular, I know Rogers, so I'm going to call Rogers type example. And ultimately, savings is the goal, but it's also part of what makes us unique is our clients only pay when we find them savings that they choose to implement. And so what that means is the knowledge.
I
Go
want
ahead,
you
Ian.
to, I think our listeners and viewers need to hear that again. So they're not paying for this extraordinary service outright. It's
Correct.
only on the money you save them a portion of that. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. So the knowledge, security, time that we provide is always complementary, right? When we identify savings for a client that they choose to implement, and the reason why I say that, who would implement savings? So let's say you've got a payment processor to take credit cards and it's fully integrated with your client management software. And in order to get the savings, you need to change providers. And that might force a larger conversation because the provider we're recommending doesn't integrate with that client management software. That's a reason why someone would say, you know what, the cost savings are good, but the impact to my business and my team and potentially my clients isn't worth it. So if they make the decision not to implement, there's no charge. If they implement, then we share in the cost savings over a period of time, which is something that we work at with each of our clients as we begin the process. But yeah, so sometimes, and this is good, we will work with a client and we come back and say, you know what, you're optimized. You've got the right provider at the right rate for your current business needs. That happens. And those clients should walk away feeling like they're well positioned in terms of that expense, and they can focus on other things. And we'll continue to touch base with that client over time because, again, the industry can change, their business can change, but there's not going to be a fee that they have to pay from Schooley Mitchell. And so we are paid for performance. If we find savings, then we will invoice our clients and get paid. And if we aren't able to find savings that are implementable, then there's no financial exposure for our clients. And so I think that makes us very unique.
That's an incredible value proposition for the business owner for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Are there other competitors in the space, and you don't have to name them, but how do you guys differ from, if there are, because you're in a pretty unique service-based business, but if there are competitors, how are you different from them?
There's competitors exactly like us are really don't exist. There are competitors in kind of adjacent spaces. And so what does that mean? A lot of business verticals will have associations that might support that business, and those associations might have preferred arrangements that the members can participate in. And those are really good, right? They are plug and play. It's pre-negotiated, so it's there's no work to do on the negotiation side, and so they're relatively easy to implement. What they're lacking versus what we do is they're not customized at all. That association has negotiated a blanket rate for all its members, whether they're just opening their practice or they've been managing a practice for 20, 30 years and have a very large established client base with kind of known volumes of business. And so everyone gets the same negotiated rate. And so the new practice probably benefits greatly from that. The well-established practice probably isn't getting the deal that they could because they're an established business with lots of history that can help empower negotiations. And so really our competition takes forms like that, right? It's not, again, the very kind of custom analysis approach. It's some providers, suppliers of kind of pre-negotiated terms, and chambers of commerce will offer that. Dental associations, there's, I think in the US and Canada, a bunch of different ones may offer something like that. And they're not bad. I'm not trying to say they're bad. What I'm saying is they're not really taking into account the particulars of the clinic that particular dentist owns. And that's what we do. We do an analysis that starts from scratch for every client we work with. And then we apply all of our data to it to help make sure they get the best rates and run as efficiently as possible. But that association approach is probably good for your clients who are just starting out. But certainly for your established clients, it's probably leaving savings on the table.
Yeah. Great point, especially since every dentist is a part of an association and all of them do offer benefits and membership programs. And yeah, so I love it that you brought that into the mix. Thinking about the clients that you've served, is there a case study that you think, or an example, an anecdotal example of how you've been able to help somebody in the medical field?
Yeah, so we've worked with dental clinics, veterinary clinics, family physician clinics, and a bunch others. And really, again, what we help with is custom to what that clinic needs. And it does tie to also how large is the clinic? Do they have multiple locations? Is it one dentist or multiple dentists? Because again, what's being consumed will differ dramatically. I like talking to dentists and clinic owners around things like payment processing. Because typically when I talk to people, there's a familiar look that goes across people's face. Oh my God, it's so expensive. But the invoices come and I really don't understand it. Maybe they've stopped looking at the invoices because the amounts seem to be relatively consistent month after month. I think that area tends to be a prime one when they set themselves up at the beginning of their practice. They haven't reviewed it because if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, right? And thinking about one client in particular, payment processing touches a significant part of their business. Obviously, it's the uninsured part of their business, but it's significant volumes. They had a relatively simple environment, meaning that it wasn't a completely integrated system, the payment system with the client management system and maybe an enterprise resource management system. But nonetheless, the solution we found was with the current processor they were already using, and we saved 20% on their processing fees.
Yeah.
And again, how did we do that? Number one, we asked, and of course, the clinic owner could have asked, but we're Schooley Mitchell. And again, the signal that this clinic owner is very serious about looking at their expenses because they've employed someone to negotiate on their behalf. And again, we did bring other options to this clinic owner, meaning other providers. And the option that we recommended was to stay with the incumbent. There was a little bit more savings by switching to another one, but then it was different terminals in the store. It wasn't really affecting the integrations, but there's still a little bit of training. And in speaking with our client, ease of implementation was more important than the greatest penny profit savings. And so 20% was, again, basically something that was obtained by signing a piece of paper that said they were accepting this rate reduction. It's not always that easy. Sometimes we do need to change providers. And that means if the hardware is rented or leased, or if it's owned, there could be some costs in kind of trading those out. It's not always as simple as that, but it often is as simple as that. And who wouldn't want to save some money with basically a sign of their signature, right? It's a pretty easy thing usually a pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny when you're talking, it makes me think that the suppliers that you're reviewing on behalf of the clients, the dentists, they must feel a little bit like a food critic walking into their restaurant where they're like, oh, maybe we let things slip a little bit over time and we really need to pull up our bootstraps and offer some better deals here.
But you know what? It's funny you say that because one of the things that we tell our clients to be prepared for is as soon as we've done our homework and are ready to start the request for quote process, as soon as we go to the incumbent and say, we're Schooley Mitchell and we're working on behalf, it's not unusual for, that to get to the account rep and they call the clinic and say, hey, you know what? We've got a better rate for you. And so what we tell our clinics is, you know what? Always take the lower rate. Don't sign a contract because what they're offering is really around trying to retain their client and stop the process. Take the lower rate. Don't sign anything. Tell us. And that's the beginning of the process of shaking the trees to see what falls out. Because to your point, it's a bit carrot and stick negotiating, right? And I'm not sure if that's something that you're familiar with. It's pretty basic concept, right? Sometimes you use a carrot to get different results, and sometimes you need the stick, which is a little bit more aggressive way of getting it. Again, our fiduciary relationship is with our clients. We maintain business relationships with all of the providers that our clients are using. And those relationships really end up, if you provide great service at good prices to our clients, we're probably going to bring you more clients to quote on. Ultimately, we're only getting information that our clients will decide whether they're going to go there or not. We're not a broker. We're not an agent. We're not trying to aggregate volumes. We're simply trying to say, this is the client. What's your best deal? And if they do that and provide great service, we're likely going to bring them more people. And if they don't, then they become vetted out based on their performance, and we're not going to recommend them. If we come to another client who's using them, they will always be included. And so there's always the opportunity for them to sharpen their pencils or to provide better service. And then they can go from the vetted list to the recommended list, but that's the carrot and stick. And so when we start working on behalf of the clients, we are working with a list of providers that have serviced our clients well at fair prices. And really, that's really what we're trying to ensure that our clients get, right? Great service at fair prices.
That's awesome. And in that comment, you talked a little bit, it might even be in a previous one, but you talked a little bit about almost, I don't know what you might have a phrase for it, but the cost of change, right? Where you guys had determined that with that particular dentist, it was more costly, whether it's emotional time down, the cost of switching software, where it didn't make sense. Do you guys do a needs analysis when you onboard a new client or a new dentist, whereby you are determining what are the pain points, what are the biggest challenges they have with their current vendors, and where are their comfort levels with change?
Yeah. I think, yeah, we definitely try and learn some of those things, right? It's, again, the last thing I should say that we want to do is recommend a change that actually in some way disables the business from being able to provide dental care to their patients, right? So there, as we're working through, we are absolutely looking at some of the softer points as well as the data points, right? Really, the base that we start with is contracts and invoicing, which allows us to understand all of the services and amounts of those services that are being consumed. We will usually have a 20 to 30 minutes kind of interview with the subject matter expert, which in some cases could be the dentist who owns the clinic. Sometimes there's a clinic manager that is empowered to make some of these decisions. We usually start with the clinic owner, but then they can redirect us to whoever might be the subject matter expert that would be best to answer those questions. And then we get into conversation exactly like what you said. Are there pain points with your current provider? Is there something that you wish you could do that you can't do? Have there been any kind of service related issues that you want us to be aware of? When it comes down to it, obviously, what I've had a completely different industry, but just to illustrate, I was working with a client that is in the business of windows and doors, and they asked us, what our biggest thing is inflationary costs on windows. Can you help us reduce the cost of the windows that we're buying to install? You know what? We could do some work. That's not where our towering strength is, right? You're a window installer that buys and sells windows that are installed in a home. You're the subject matter expert there. Anything we could do probably would not support a better decision than what you're doing already, because that's where you add value to your clients, right? How they pay for it using credit card, that's business critical, but that's not what you're an expert in. That's what we're an expert in. And so when it comes to some aspects of, is it better to have fully integrated POS system with patient management? And the answer usually is yes, but how their clinic operates and what kind of front staff they have, where are their pain points and times, ultimately the clinic's going to be the expert. Now, whether that's the dentist or an office manager, will certainly be able to provide options, but we do need our clients to tell us what is the problem that you're looking to solve as it relates to the expenses that we support. So I don't know if I've really answered your question there, Ian, but we try and stick to the areas that we know that we are experts in. And obviously, the world is getting more and more connected and integrations are getting more and more, and we're adapting to those kind of integrations. But at the end, there's a clinic with a person that is using those integrations, and that clinic really knows best on how that person should work with the software and the integrations. And we can help inform them, but ultimately we do need them to have a position on this is what I think my problem to solve is.
Yeah. And Stefan, how long does this process take usually? I'm sure there's a range because there's a lot of different factors that could be in play, but what's the common range of timeline?
For sure, there is a range. Obviously, the more categories we look at, the larger the clinic. There could be a single dentist, there could be a team of dentists, there could be one location, there could be several locations. So all of that will impact. But to start with, we will usually have a 20 to 30-minute meeting to discuss a particular category. So if we're looking at payment processing, that's a category. If we're looking at telecom, that's a category. So for each category, it's usually a 20 to 30-minute call with, again, the clinic's subject matter expert, which could be a receptionist sometimes if we're trying to understand what the volume of calls and how they're managing the calls. All of those things aren't necessarily top of mind for the dentist. So it doesn't mean that it's the lead dentist that we're spending this time with, but it's about 20 to 30 minutes per category. We need to be provided the contracts that they will have with their providers. If contracts are in place, not all of the categories we look at actually have a signed contract, but if there is, we need it. And we need invoicing. And so invoicing can be available electronically, and we can become authorized and access that directly. We're not talking about accessing the client's accounting software, the billing that would come from a Rogers as an example, or a Bell. And if they don't want to give us electronic access, we can work with paper copies, and we've got software that helps us to import that. And then it's probably, again, depending on the client, 2 to 3 months for us to do our benchmarking, the competitive quoting process, really understanding everything that's come in, comparing it against what the need state is, and then coming back. And the readout is usually pretty quick as well. It's about 20 to 30 minutes where we share what our findings are. And then depending on what the solution that's being proposed is, there could be a follow-up meeting where we have the provider with us and the client together to discuss what the implementation looks like. Again, a lot of times, Ian, it's simply a rate reduction with the current provider, which then means with that 20 to 30 minute readout happens. Do you want to save money with your existing provider? Yes, we're going to send you a document to sign and the work is done, and we will then work to implement on behalf of the client. So usually 2 to 3 months, the amount of time that it takes from the client or their team, again, 20 to 30 minutes at the beginning, 20 to 30 minutes at the end, and then the variable is how many categories we're looking at.
Right.
So it's a very efficient way to learn how to reduce costs in your business and take those costs and do something with it. You could invest it in equipment that allows you to do things for your patients. You can invest it in people training that can, again, help your patients. You can have more people. You can put it into profit, right? It becomes opportunity for you to build differentiation or increase profits. What you do with it is up to you. We'll just help create the savings so that you've got something to do with.
You could put it back into your marketing.
I think that's a great idea.
Hey, Stefan, this has been amazing. And I think what you guys bring to the marketplace is truly invaluable. I think our audience, the dentists out there, you guys should check this out. It's a fantastic service. Again, what's your tagline, Stefan? I love your tagline.
So I've got a couple.
Okay.
Schooley Mitchell, we are your vendor watchdogs, right? Because again, we're trying to make sure that the vendors that you're working with are providing competitively priced services. And the other is at Schooley Mitchell, you're going to have to edit this because I don't know why now. I've got cans stuck in my head, which is ridiculous, right? At Schooley Mitchell, we don't make a nickel until we save you a dime, right?
Love it.
Every bill that we send a client means that they have saved much more than that overall, because again, our invoicing is a portion of what they've saved. They always have reduced expenses when they've worked with us.
Fantastic. So if one of our audience wants to reach out to you, what's the best way they can do that?
You know what? Phone is always a good option. And the number is 289-903-0147. And then the other option is you can email me, Stefan.Lafreniere@schooleymitchell.com. I'm not going to spell that, or should I spell that?
Everybody can phone. That's the best way.
All right. Those are the two best ways to get in touch with me. Yeah, it's phone or email.
Awesome. Stefan, thank you so much for sharing this information, for being on the podcast. And we're really glad that you took the time today.
I'm so happy to have spent this time with you, Ian, and thank you for the opportunity to address your clientele. And if there is anything we can do, feel free to reach out. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to the Dental Marketing Heroes podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or any other major podcast service. If you have a burning marketing question, let us know so we can explore it on this podcast. And until next week, keep calm and market on.